It's spoiler time, so if you are an anime only and don't want to be spoiled, then get out. If you don't mind spoilers, then here you go. Luffy's Devil Fruit is the mythical Zoan fruit of the sun god Nika. By awakening this power, he can turn his surroundings to rubber and manipulate his body as much as he wants to whatever extent that he wants. Gone are the days of having to copy the martial arts of Tom and Jerry. Gone are the days of cosplaying Sasuke's energy levels. Say goodbye to the inferior forms known as Boundman and Snakeman. Say hello to the new improved Zoan Transformation called Gear 5th, and his most powerful attack themed after the Indian God Hanuman, his Bajrang Gun. Hello Internet, Jojo here, and as I said before, we are talking about Gear 5th and calculating the power of Luffy's Bajrang Gun. Now, Gear 5th is by far Luffy's best form, and is actually his only true transformation, being that it is a Zoan transformation. Until now, Luffy's transformations were honestly a work of genius that only Luffy could pull off because of his incredibly creative, and let's be honest, sacrificial personality. Luffy's combat style and creativity has always been restricted by his Devil Fruit limits, but Luffy found ways to get around those limits by sacrificing his own life force. What Gear 5th is an answer to everything he, and us as a fanbase, ever wanted. Think about it, all the things that Luffy might have wanted to do, but hasn't been able to do because of the limits of his Devil Fruit. Not only did Gear 5th take him beyond his previous peak physically, easily making him stronger than Boundman and faster than Snakeman, his two previous peaks, but also allows him to reach a much higher peak in terms of his Haki usage. Before this, his Gear 4th form put a massive strain on his body and Haki, but even with the strain of Gear 4th, Luffy was still easily one of the strongest characters in the franchise. Now, he can reach levels of power and speed that are, at the very least, on par with Gear 4th, but without the strain on his body and mind that Gear 4th had. However, this is just the minimum result of Gear 5th. Given Luffy's creativity, I can't imagine that he doesn't have a new idea for a form that he couldn't do before. Heck, maybe it will be something similar to Gear 4th, but stacked on top of Gear 5th, making it, Gear 6 or something. Gear 5th can turn into anything, and there is still so much potential just from the physical side of Gear 5th alone. In the Road to Laugh-Tale, a behind-the-scenes look at Wano, Oda stated that Gear 5th gets stronger the more Luffy laughs, and Luffy laughs a lot when in Gear 5th. Now, there is no stated limit as to how powerful he can become from laughing, nor is it stated to reset when he leaves the form. Luffy's awakening also allows him to create extra limbs, specifically extra arms. Depending on how many arms Luffy can make, he could do everything multiple times faster or more times at the same level of power that he could do with 2 arms. Let me put this in perspective. Imagine a Kong Gatling with 4 additional arms attacking. On top of all the physical stat increases, Luffy's awakening also allows him to grab lightning, but he didn't actually just grab one. He grabbed one and spun around it like a pole dancer, a feat that I calculated to be about 2 times the speed of light, but it's probably best calculated using the anime when that happens so we have more context. Luffy literally used intangible energy as a toy. And in case you forgot, because it's been a while since Skypiea, lightning is hot, nearly 5 times the energy of the sun. This means that not only is Luffy super heat resistant, there's also no reason to think that he could not grab fire or clouds. After all, even Doflamingo could use his Devil Fruit to grab clouds. Heck, even air shouldn't be that much of an issue for Luffy to grab. And if you forgot, grabbing objects and turning it into rubber is not exclusive to inanimate objects. Luffy also did it to Kaido himself. By turning his opponent to rubber, Luffy can get a grip so strong that Kaido, the beast himself, couldn't break free, even after turning into a giant flame dragon that was hot enough to melt one of Onigashimi's horns in only a few seconds. This would require a heat of over 1670 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than most magma. Heck, Luffy tanked many blasts hot enough to vaporize bone, and bone evaporates at nearly 3642 degrees Celsius. Not to mention that the object that Luffy turns rubber becomes way stronger. His awakening was able to give part of Onigashima's skull the strength to not only tank Kaido's blast breath, something that we know he can vaporize as it was part of the skull, but Luffy also managed to rebound the blast back at Kaido. Yeah, I think one of the most notable aspects of Gear 5th that we've barely touched on is its ability to increase its user's size at will. What was once a Tom and Jerry routine is now a simple action. From becoming large enough to play jump rope with a dragon, to creating a gigantic fist that punched downward at lightning speeds, a punch so powerful it could be felt 1,000 miles away and cause a volcano to erupt. There are at least 4 ways to calculate this punch. First is the obvious way, pixel measurements. By calculating the size of the fist compared to the island, we find that the fist knuckles are about 4.7 kilometers wide. Then we can use this image after Luffy punched Kaido to find that Luffy's fist has a volume of about 172 cubic kilometers. There's more math into this, but in the end we get a weight of about 174 trillion kilograms. Next, we can take this statement from the Road to Laugh-Tale and assume that his punch speed was comparable to that of a lightning bolt, 224,000 miles per hour. Doing this, we get a punch energy of about 209 teratons of TNT. Impressive, but not particularly anything special, especially considering the next calculations. Next, we'll calculate the energy of the earthquake. Like I mentioned before, in the Road to Laugh-Tale, Oda stated that the reverberations from the Bajrang Gun could be felt 1,000 miles away. Now, the wording does imply that it was very loud or the shockwave was that strong, but outside that, there's little to suggest that that is the case. We never see anything supporting that in the manga. There's no mention of it being loud and no mention of the blast being strong. However, there is a mention of a quake, so that's what I think was felt 1,000 miles away. Now, we need to determine the magnitude of the quake that is being felt. I think from this statement, we are looking at a magnitude 4 or 5, so for the sake of argument, we will use a magnitude 4 quake. Plugging these numbers into the formula and converting the miles to meters, we find the quake caused by his punch must have been a magnitude 14.39. A quake of this magnitude would have a power of 58.94 petatons of TNT. This is a number that is so high that it's really difficult to find a way to quantify it in a way that makes sense for normal people who don't spend day in and day out doing this. But just so you know, this is massively powerful, could easily wipe life from the planet. Of course, we could also go with a 4.5 to split the difference between 4 and 5 magnitude quakes, but I don't want to. That's more math that I don't want to have to do. However, what if I told you there was a way to get an accurate result without using the Road to Laugh-Tale? After all, the Bajrang Gun did force a volcano to erupt. Considering that volcanoes will only erupt from a 6 magnitude quake, we can assume the quake was a magnitude 6 at the epicenter of the eruption. But we need to know the distance the volcano is from the quake's epicenter. And here's where it gets complicated. During Odin's flashback, we are told that at one point Wano had a forest that stretched as far as the eye can see. Now, we know that the distance to the horizon as far as they can see in One Piece is 50 kilometers. That gives mainland Wano a diameter of about 100 kilometers, and the distance to Onigishima's original location, where we are going to assume the volcano is about 49 kilometers. Using this quake formula, we find that for an earthquake to be magnitude 6, 49 kilometers away from the epicenter, the quake at the epicenter must be a magnitude 13.88. An earthquake of this power would have an energy of 9 petatons of TNT. Impressive, but still, doesn't sit right with me. You see, when a magnitude 6 quake causes a volcano, it's generally a chain reaction caused by shifting tectonic plates that eventually leads to the volcano eruption a few days later. The thing is, this volcano erupted in like 10 minutes at most. This means that energy of volcano's epicenter was much more powerful than a simple magnitude 6. Now recently, a underwater volcano, very similar to what we see here, called Tonga erupted. NASA calculated Tonga to be between 4 and 18 megatons, but they seem to have rested on the energy of 10 megatons, which converts to magnitude 7.9. For a quake to be felt as a 7.9 over 49 kilometers away, the quake at the epicenter would need to be a magnitude 15.7. So this quake will be worth over 7.07 exatons of TNT, nearly 25% of the needed energy to destroy the moon. Guys, quakes are no joke. They are just no joke. They get so powerful so quickly, even with a slight change. Before you freak out and say, oh, it's not consistent, it is. It's very consistent with methods we've gone over before. To get a power like this using the 100 mile statement, you would only need a magnitude a tiny bit over a 5. This is definitely within the realm of possibility, as it is also consistent with Luffy busting Don Chinjiao's head, as Don Chinjiao split an entire continent that was nearly as hard as diamond. So at the least, this punch is easily in the petaton range with a mid-tier range of 7.07 exatons of TNT. But there's still something else here I want to bring up. Guys, everyone has been freaking out about the Bajrang Gun, but Oda has a habit with his attacks. Do you know what habit I'm referring to? Think about it. Gum Gum Pistol, Gum Gum Gatling, Gum Gum King Kong Gun, Gum Gum Kong Gatling. Red Rock, Rock Gatling. Bajrang Gun, Bajrang Gatling. Can you see it? I can 100% see this happening. That's just how Oda does his stuff. So, in terms of actual numbers, I'd say that Luffy is functionally at least 3 times more powerful than both Boundman and Snakeman, just from his ability to manifest 4 extra limbs. However, I would not use that as a straight up multiplier because it does function differently than one. Even if we had some sort of standard multiplier for zone forms, that wouldn't really apply here, as the Nika fruit is so different when compared to other fruits. It is by far the most unique fruit that we've seen in the series so far. So whatever the case is, it is unquestionable that Luffy's Gear 5th is his peak for now. But with that said guys, thank you for watching, see you next time, remember to stay spectacular, JoJo, out.
Drink up me hearty Joe.